Oh,
Hey, Thomas, how are
we good. What's up?
you? A little sideways.
Oh, sideways, huh? Let's see. Better now?
There we go.
Better now?
Yeah, it's very interesting camera behavior there.
Oh, thanks. Got a little seconds in my truck.
Gotcha.
Some peace and quiet.
How's your week been?
It's it's Monday, isn't it?
Yes. Sometimes that's the entire week. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's been eventful so far, right? Making progress.
Yeah, trying to keep my Mondays uneventful, but that doesn't always happen. So far, so good. Last week, not so good. So last week's Monday ran pretty much all the way through to Friday.
There you go.
Yeah, and not in a good way. But the format here is just open, so whatever.
Yeah. I was chatting with Steven. He said, "Join the Zoom." So
Cool.
might as
Awesome.
well.
Yeah. We'll see if he shows up today. He doesn't always make it. Um,
Cool.
got we've had a fair number of regulars, but not consistent. Um,
Sure.
but this is only the 14th week I've been doing this.
Yeah. I mean, stuff happens, and it's easy to drop as a priority.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, stuff takes priority sometimes.
Yeah. The we do on Thursdays, we have a lean coffee format, which is much more structured than this. If you've never attended a lean coffee. And we do those every 2 weeks, and they're still very chaotic about who shows up when. um but it's a good thing. Gives people something to do and get away and think about other. I like it because it lets me think about other people's problems.
Besides your own, right? There
Yes.
you go. Perfect, perfect.
Oh, so what kind of work do you do?
Oh, cloud, DevOps, you know, you name it. Uh, did it all a long time ago, and now just you know, watching everything happen. Um, I don't know what to say.
I see you carry the CISSP badge. um
Yeah,
is security a
yeah.
large component of what you do?
Uh, sometimes people want that, but most of the time they don't care.
Right.
No one cares about security. They only care about security when their big customer says, "Oh, you have to have this certification in order for us to cut you a big check." And
Nope.
then the company goes, "Oh, okay. That means like our the close our reports and okay,
Yep.
whatever."
Compliance by checkbox.
I
I
mean, a lot
wouldn't
of
say
times you want both. They want
I'm a private investigator. I'm always concerned about security.
well, a lot of these startups and even your cloud companies, you know, they're concerned, but always motivated by, you know, why they have to do it, which it's not like we want to do this, we have to do this, sort of. I don't know
Yeah,
if it makes sense.
it rarely comes from the this our customers' data is very important to our customers, and so we should care about it, and we should actually spend money to make sure that we care about it. It always comes from, well, we signed a contract with somebody that says we're supposed to do some things, so let's
Mhm.
say that we do those things in a way that makes us feel better.
Sure, and yeah, hopefully do them. But it's yeah,
And that's funny though, right? Because there's a stage where, sadly, the right thing to do is to just say that you do them because you have to get the work. You have to get the clients.
it makes sense. Why
You
should you
can't
go through all
afford to do them until you're getting paid.
exactly. There's a reason.
Right.
And it's not like you can just open these packages up and when you install them, everything's set up, sanely. I I don't know if you're probably familiar with Elasticsearch, but I think for 10 years or however long since Elasticsearch was invented, they had the default install just had no password for the administrator
Well, there
account.
literally was no system to even have passwords. It was an unauthenticated database.
Yeah,
You had to integrate something else. And even today, you are still integrating something else to get a password.
right. Right. So, people they would put it out there and then, in their mind, oh well, we have to access this from home or wherever, so I'll just allow everybody. And they didn't even know it's there. They don't even know the vulnerability's there.
And that's how we get MongoDB on the internet with no password.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. And
And
Elastic.
Elasticsearch and
Yeah. I mean,
what was it? So one of my favorite ones was, and because I was talking to some people on the GitLab team pretty regularly at the time. I think it was Mercedes that accidentally released a bunch of source code by having their GitLab repo public on the internet, and not and nobody paid attention to the fact that this is a tool that was designed to provide public repositories to the public. So therefore, if you put it on the public internet, it's going to be publicly exposed. Now
like
there
a
are,
public giving account.
yeah, I mean there were options, so everybody was putting this in their private GitLab thinking it was private because it's theirs, but it's on the internet. And so there was I think there was even some lawsuit like against GitLab saying that their default configurations and blah blah blah, but all they had to do was change a flag in the config. But they didn't educate themselves enough to know the software that they're operating is something that mattered.
Have it right there. Education. Just look under the hood a little bit to see what you're doing, what it is, read the manual. I mean, the stuff with Elastic was in the manual.
Yeah.
It's right there in the instructions. It says it right there. It's easy. I've had to deal with that like, you know, hey, look, it's right here. There's no if, like, oh, we should go investigate. No, you can just ask it says it right there.
Yep. Hey, Michael. Hey, Steven.
Dick, it's good to see you, Thomas. I'm like,
Hey,
I was like,
what's
you
up?
should come to this. Yeah, that's cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
yeah.
for the invite.
I'm doing what I can to promote David.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, everyone keeps hitting me up about like, hey, I'm thinking about doing some fractional work or whatever, and I was like, you should come to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, I mean the post that Steven just put up about how how you operate. I mean that's always been how I've operated, and I get a contract job at these one company. They are producing a Kubernetes install for access control for one of the and their customer was uh begins with a G and ends with an oogle, and they're trying to deliver Kubernetes platform for the door swipes and stuff.
Okay.
And just the stuff that I saw was like, how are y'all even like? Did you even? How are you even doing this? Like, a 100-page instruction manual about how to go edit this file, and I've seen it before 20 years ago. A big Word document with code to copy and paste. It's like no wonder you guys haven't delivered in a year. Like
Yep.
never gonna get there. uh, sometimes the simple stuff, most of the time, they're not. You try to point out like, well, you you don't know where the error is coming from, and your build is 50,000 lines long, and but you're just skipping every error, and so we'll put it on, you know, exit on shell, exit on error. Just put that flag in there. Let's see what happens. And they're like, no, you can't do that.
Set
That'll
dash
break
E and
everything.
suffer. Set
That'll
dash
break.
EU and suffer. I require it everywhere. The only time you can turn it off is if you can prove me you have enough traps in place to appropriately handle what happens.
No, exactly. And I'm asking the senior director, engineering director guy, like, well, how do you know whether it failed or not? Like, well, you just have to look at the log, like, what do you don't even have a search engine for the logs, it's
This is
just
my biggest complaint
50
about
KB.
software developers is that they look at shell scripts and they turn their brain off.
Yeah, why is that?
If they were writing any other language, they would do error handling. They would do all sorts of, and I mean, if they're doing this in C, there is so much work. I used to have a C developer. I love this guy, C++ developer, super sharp, amazing guy, amazing engineer, amazing developer. But you hand him a bash script and it all just goes out the window. And it's like, well, it should have done something, right?
Dude, it
Should we
is
log
deep.
about it? Should we tell us what we're doing? Should we error handle anything? No.
No. Well, I actually agree. No, you shouldn't, because you shouldn't write programs in shell. Okay, but command language is it's distinctly
Orchestration
different.
is what we do
Like,
with shell, right?
yeah, like command language is more like data language, like data log, prolog, right? Like you don't write that like Python either, right?
Right.
But to your point, I don't know who hurt everyone. I think it's just trauma. Like who's hurting you? Who did you get beat as a child
No,
with shell script?
no,
The minute
no,
you show
no.
them shell, they glaze over. Like,
It's
right?
because, yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No,
I
you're
think,
good.
yeah, I mean, I've had this working with, small startup, for instance, where all the developers are like, the first language they learned was Python. And so they look at me like I'm writing everything, the whole CI CD, everything that needs to be done is all written in Bash.
Right.
And they're like, why are you using that? Why are you using that? Like,
What do you say?
Because it's first class supported in our YAML file that we have to write this in. It says run a command.
Right. Well, that's what I was gonna
exactly.
like.
Yeah.
Is that what? Because I ask people now. I think this is not one thing I'll say right now. This has not been delved into that much. Most people would look at you like, why are we even having this conversation? But it's because of YAML and Kubernetes and all this, we're having to have this conversation, which is if you started in Python, Python is a programming language. It does have a REPL. Like you can run commands in Python, but to David's point, Python's not usually on the system by default necessarily. You know, it usually is.
And
There
Python
it is.
still doesn't have a native YAML interpreter. So
Right. But if I get a computer, most likely any modern computer that's useful is going to have a shell, which means it's not that it has a shell. It's that what's a computer that you can't run commands on? Like kind of like if the bear's in the woods, like kind of thing. And so, but there's
Well,
a distinct, I think this is what we've been learning is distinctly having to be clear and explicit about command languages. Is it a good idea? Does it have loops? Does it have functions? Yes. Someone added loops and functions to shell. Was that a good idea? It's not a bad idea if you could stay in shell, but it's a distinctly different, you're crossing a very distinct line when you use shell to write a directional, imperative and directional with like indirection and all that thing versus a shell script, literally like an actor reading it line by line is a very different animal. In my world, if you use anything past the conditional and can't nest them, no variables, you're doing something different. And apparently this is controversial. I might be one of
the thing is
Yeah.
if you were executing commands, if you're executing external tools as the primary function of this work, even though it is a scripted logical flow, repetition, whatever, if you're executing external commands, using a shell tool is better than all of your other options. If that's the
'Cause it was
primary
natively.
function of what this is doing, even if you have to do error handling and
and
all the other things.
Yeah.
Because
my
in Python or Ruby or C or anything else, to actually do external command execution is a lot of boilerplate code.
yeah,
You shouldn't.
yeah,
Yeah,
Or
and
that's why.
they don't.
what I
And
would
so you
do,
lose streaming outputs, you lose standard outs and standard errors, you lose, all sorts of stuff because somebody doesn't pay any attention because they don't even understand why and how command execution works. And so then you get really
yeah, they
And
don't,
now they're
they don't,
doing it. They don't
they don't.
understand it. Now they're implementing Ruby because Chef's in Ruby or Ansible's in Python. And now, so they wanted the high level object oriented thing around running commands. That was the wrong answer. I mean, I worked at like, I could tell you that wrapping commands in really fancier and fancier and fancier Go, Ruby, Python
Yeah,
adds a ton of uncertainty to the thing that you don't, it
yep.
does it without adding any actual value in some ways,
That's the
except
trump
that it's
card on the whole
programming.
thing.
And programmers like
Here's the
programming.
trump
Sorry,
card.
go ahead, Tom. Yeah, go ahead, man.
No, it's okay. The trump card on the whole thing when they were hassling me about, "Why are you writing shell script? Why are you writing shell script?" I said, "Because you can't install Python with Python. I mean, setting up your
Exactly. This
Python
is the whole
file,
problem. It doesn't
bro,
install itself. So it's
you
bottom
can
yeah,
now,
turtle.
by the way. You can. But
I mean,
well,
yeah, kind of. But we say this in my mentoring. Shell, pun intended, is the bottom turtle.
it
It's
is.
the
it is.
it's like
Yeah,
literally you don't need any dependencies. What people don't
exactly.
understand is for years billions of dollars have been spent to basically convince people that you can't do what Ansible, Terraform, Kubernetes, Docker does. You can't do that. It's got
Without
magic
the
of its
trump.
own, but it
Yeah,
doesn't. You
yeah,
can actually do that. All the
you
things
got
that
it.
it promises, and I don't mean program in shell. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying through commands done a certain way,
Yeah,
you can get the same outcomes. And you could add
absolutely.
error outputs. And what I will say is if I was running a data center of really important stuff and we have to configure the whole thing, if I can configure it all, get exactly what I need, provably so with good outputs, logs and all that, and just something that is command based versus Python or code based, that including having a bunch of people I don't even pay or work with also working on that code base, I would take the first one because there's just less uncertainty. With things like
Yeah,
Terraform, open source stuff, it was great for a while, but you need that neck to ring. That developers in Fiji right now, he can't fix the module. Plus just eating that code base. So things like Terraform end up being kind of the fanciest of curl. It's just a program that gives you a curl command. I had the same conversation really recently about CMake. CMake doesn't make your program. It doesn't do a build. It actually makes the command to make the build.
Yes.
And
right.
now it's like, well, what if that breaks? Well, we got to talk to 10 more developers. It's like, it gets insane. But what we've been short circuiting now is onto to not shell, but command language amazingly does everything you need. Pretty much computers were figured out by the 80s. Everything you need sort of in these shells. Pick whichever one, doesn't matter. But don't program it like Python because you're doing something different.
Well, I think you're kind of highlighting why it's also why most developers don't necessarily have fear but have an aversion to CLI. And that's if you go to any college today in the
Mhm.
last 20 years, right? And look at what they're teaching. They're not teaching computer science and CIS students, a lot of these basic computer pieces, right? They're barely teaching the usage of Git, which is arguably even more important to a developer than CLI. And the thing is, if you're doing Git right, you're using the command line anyway. So, um, so we're taught kind of a very brief history of programming and how programming used to be procedural. And you still see a lot of procedural type development, especially if you know any RPG developers on the 400. That's that's still all procedural, right? Um, but then you go, but we made object oriented programming, and that's how you should think.
Right. That's the
And so
natural
that's how
progression.
people think.
Yeah. Or that it's the natural progression. So, when we were all cave people, we use shell. And now that we're civilized human beings, we use a higher level language. They'll even say that. But
Yeah,
it's not
that was
that
the
simple. That
intent.
narrative doesn't work. That's like saying we did bartering and then we did money. And that's not how it did it either. Like this sort of narrative is just not true. Command languages are different than programming. And for different reasons, especially if you want stability. And we're talking about information infrastructure where I'm at, where we're configuring a system quickly and then want it to stay the same. Programming is well, I say programming, or you could say infrastructure is code. Well, it's still code if you're using a bunch of commands, even if they're wrapped in something. But programming itself with loops and indirection and variables, that's side effects all the way down, right? And it's not. There's some things that actually hurt the sort of stability or staticness of that, which is what you want when you're writing applications. So if Michael's writing a banking application, we want to program it. But the computer that it's running on, if it's virtual or the infrastructure is defined in some kind of code, that code works better if it's not programming. It works better. There's just different approaches here. It's interesting. And I think that's emerging. But we did kind of the middle road. We practiced with DevOps for quite enough time where we said, well, I think it was Luke, literally, because I asked Adam, I was like, but I think it was Luke Haynes who did Puppet. It's exciting if you're not necessarily a programmer. Objects look really great for the types of things you see on systems. Let's write an object for a file. Let's write an object for a directory, right? And then you could program your infrastructure with object-oriented programming. No offense to Plumies and all them, but again, you're wrapping something that needs to be stable and persistent in a bunch of imperative code.
One thing with they're just still wrapping Terraform and all of the abstractions and functionality and dysfunctionality,
which is just a fancy curl call to an API.
Right, exactly. And so by the time you get down to Pulumi and their implementations, it is so far. It's still not. You still have to understand all of the abstractions below you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really work like code. I can't have my banking application have a library that says, go create this thing that I need. I need a cache. Let me go create a cache and the infrastructure for my cache that my application is going to
make it.
That's the idea, right? Is that the same programs that can do this work can also do this other work, but that's not true.
No.
All you did was just write the same state management tool in a slightly different language that's more broken because you can't.
It's just state management.
Yeah.
Command-based state management works great. There's a bunch of last couple of years, we've really been pushing on that too. There's not a lot of research in that state management stuff, but that artist, Rube Goldberg, or, a lot of people think for years and years, we've thought that complex systems need complex solutions, right? This isn't necessarily true. It's not true at all. Actually, complex systems, most of them, including the ocean behind David, are actually really simple systems. Sometimes there's some algorithmic complexity, but even that defined by programmers and infrastructure isn't a fit. Like, these are things we learned from DevOps, but we didn't really no one had a post DevOps moratorium or whatever, post-mortem on DevOps. We just kept going. And it kind of goes into the same thing where you go to these companies, they're like, well, we thought programming our infrastructure was just the natural progression from running these brittle shell scripts with our old system administrators. And I'm like, that narrative isn't good.
Why do they call them? Why is it brittle? I mean, it just
right. They just wrote it. I mean, yeah, right. That's how it's not about shell. It's how you write it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did somebody decide, you know what, this is worth investing in and making it a production first-class citizen of our ecosystem? Or did they write it once, throw it away, and then somebody said, oh, hey, let's go run it on a cron or bake it into a run book and hope it works?
I mean, the path of automation is really funny because a shell script would, compared to typing, across 10 different machines in the command line, typing it all. By the 10th one, you got better or worse. You got more drunk, or maybe you got better. I don't know, but something wasn't consistent from the first machine to the 10th. So you start putting the things you do in a script, right? That you could characterize as automation, right? This is automating the thing. And then you could collaborate that on that. There's a thing that to look at. We could use because config
Right.
management and source control were the same thing. They were the same thing. There's an artifact that says how the state should be. But if you start adding things like a sentence that says it should be like this or that is probably the best for us to say this is how, but that doesn't make the machine that way, right? But
if
yeah.
Nix is, I'm not.
Oh no! I was like, oh
but,
no! Nix.
Right? The ideological concepts of if we start with a system that is entirely based around config files, because the problem is the reason that we started with config files and then we said let's version our configs, so let's version etc. And all the files in there, and then all we have to do is change them in our version control and it distributes them, right?
That's it.
That was the early
and roll back.
This is why we created CVS.
Wait, let's be clear. If you read the Nix paper, the original one, everyone should read that. Their biggest thing they wanted was rollback. That was the main reason to make Nix. Like people don't even remember that, but so that you could go back and forth, you could go forward and backwards in time if you had a deterministic system based on versioning the things. We know from physics this is not true. We know that.
And the reason it doesn't work is because all of your software is not built with that same principle.
Yeah, you're not control. It only works.
You're
great.
I need to change an Apache config.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, I need to restart it. Condition. Do I need to use a graceful? Do I need to do a hard start? I can't just change the config. I need to change an Nginx config.
And you know all this ahead of time? Like, no, so in order to make Nix deterministic, you would, just like the physicists who want to figure out when the comet's going to come around,
all of these things.
You have to know pretty much, you have to solve the universe to tell me what this Nginx restart's going to do on this computer. The sort of to bake this pie, you have to invent the universe, Carl Sagan stuff. So instead of this idea of bringing determinism to the systems, you could do other things, right? Like, but this idea of Nix, these deterministic builds and stuff, that's a religion in the Nix side. It's very, very much like they're chasing something. I don't think most companies care.
It only works
really
if you start at ground zero and build the entire thing. That means all of the software that you choose to run, and that doesn't work in modern.
In the same order, exactly.
In the same order.
This is the Steve Tragot approach.
Or you take the other way we almost get there is the golden master. We change the golden master
thing,
and we just redeploy them. We just redeploy servers, right? Because then you're treating the entire server as a single state.
You try, but here's the thing: we showed up,
but reality of what it's running is still
this golden image in VMware. About like you're talking 2012, right?
Oh,
it was
I
get that this has all your rules.
We were doing those in like 06.
Yeah, but this is like at the end of this, I'm like, okay, this is the golden image now. It's baked with all our compliance, all our stuff. We need to get this same rules in the cloud. And I'm like, well, what were the rules? And they're like, they're here in the golden image. And it's like this giant cake.
Right.
And I said, how many eggs? And it's like, you can't unbake the cake. It's logically irreversible when we do it this way. And that's when we had to start over.
This is the Docker argument. Docker is the recipe is the Docker file. The cake is the container that you've created. And then you execute and launch that and spread it around.
Same with
but
Nix.
Even then, the reality of divergence within that is when the cake was built. When you build your actual container, because you could be building from a different and a different layer cache than someone else that will look the same because it just depends on the lines of word in the file to determine if it's the same. It doesn't mean it's the same. And so you still end up with non-deterministic.
Yeah. Trust me, I dress like Eddie Van Halen. I get Eddie Van Halen's guitar. I get his amp. I eat what he ate for breakfast. But for some reason, I'm just not Eddie Van Halen.
That's because you didn't turn away from the camera.
Oh, yeah. Then there's always some other person. Well, you're just still not doing it right. But this is an interesting thing I found like a few years ago that there was a discussion in the sort of pre-DevOps where Steve Trigot, I don't remember how to say his name, and Mark Burgess were kind of, Steve Trigot had wrote a paper that the temporal order of things, like sort of how you manage systems and get stability is just do the same thing every time, everywhere. And he was replatforming trading floors. So like, you can't argue with that. Burgess is over here like, no, converge it like an immune system, and everyone was like, "Whoa, dude!" Right? Like, what the hell? But they were supposed to debate. I don't even know if the debate happened, but clearly, developers like developing. They pick the thing that is more pragmatic. But as we've gotten off the computer, like that was one system stuff. We're talking just even getting an instance in Amazon from a computer in like there's multiple like sort of what Mark would say space-time places. Like it's like different space-time things happening all at once to say, oh, first do this. That doesn't exist anymore. Even on your own computer, like the file system on an Apple isn't even really there, right? Like
No, yeah, it's
what's
even less
happening
there
right
now.
and as we go to
Like-
more virtual computers, now the computer itself isn't even the thing. So I don't think this determinism, if anyone can convince me you can write anything, shell script, Terraform, Ansible, any of that stuff with more than 3 things in more than 2 places, and you could tell me the order that it's supposed to happen over and over, you'll win a Nobel Prize because you're solving data consistency, which is a different, thing. So anyway, so the approach is like, I will say that I feel someone like Burgess is
So,
more right
welcome
now.
everyone to the Fractional Demo.
Oh yeah, sorry. Someone got me started. It's like, who beat you with Bash, dude? Who's abusing you? Like, you'll be okay. Big hugs to the shell folks.
So, Michael, any progress on in the fractional world?
Yeah. So I had actually had a client a few months back, small time, local, um, software development type stuff they want to do, an idea to build out and prove out, so on and so forth. But as it turns out, the two folks I'm working with are really very interested in a more long term thing. And so we were able to come to an agreement. It's um not quite as high as I wanted to start, but for a couple of local guys who are going to work with me for a while, um, that's now the project is now migrated from software development contract to fractional CTO for them. So
Okay. Yeah.
that's good progress. Another client of mine from before, he backed out again today. He's a little bit wishy washy, but he's got software and really needs. He's so busy. He needs somebody to step in his shoes when it comes to managing the stuff to do with the software he's built over the years. But in about a month, if everything goes well, I'll be back with him for more. So that's some good progress. And as it turns out, I don't know if they tell you this somewhere at some school I didn't go to, but networking and being social is apparently the leading cause of good contracts.
Yes, it
So,
is. Being good at your job, being good at being social.
Right. It's being good at talking.
Yep.
Apparently. So I have quite a few events here locally to go to work on, Stephen, that thing I was talking about, local business IT services, that entry point. We have a bunch. We have the medical area. We have so many providers here, 2 hospitals and so many individual doctor's office, dentist office, things like that. And not a single IT service person does business level IT, enterprise IT with the knowledge of healthcare involved for healthcare systems. I just happen to have experience in that area. So I've got a pretty good pitch. I just need to get in front of the people to make it. And that probably means joining Rotary, which is a big deal here in East Texas.
Like, is this like a business group kind of thing?
Yeah.
Almost like a chamber, like a chamber.
Yeah, the Rotary is parallel to Chamber.
Yeah.
They're sort of peers, but not the same. Totally
Yeah,
agree.
Chamber's its own functional business, whereas Rotary is more a nonprofit organization type thing made up of a collective of business people.
Yeah, we've been doing that. We're getting a couple other kind of fractional folks, but a lot of people were laid off and sort of don't know if they want to go get a full-time job again. Similar, we don't know to call it a collective, a co-op, but a Rotary is a really good thing. But this that same vibe where you're going to need help sometimes. Also, if you want, like we had talked, like I would love to help if you need help or want, if it starts getting like they start wanting like burn downs of what you offer and stuff. I think it really does come down to like kind of these that I get excited about the fractional stuff being sort of form when you need it, like clump when you need it kind of thing. And so let me know if you want to try anything.
Will do.
I'm not in Texas, but
Yeah, I surprisingly enough, the the biggest gotcha in getting local business. Now, Nacogdoches is a small town, right? We're talking 35,000 people, right? We do have one very big business headquarter here, and that's L Electric. They're now a nationwide electric supplier. I used to work for them. I was near the top. I still talk to the CIO over there, right? And they're now headed to be a $3 billion a year company, and that's a pretty big deal in East Texas. But most of the stuff we're talking about is very small business owners, and the gotcha is the way they think about information technology, as small business owners. And it's like, oh, like these doctors' offices, I'm gonna tell you, these providers, dentists, things like that. I go and I drink beer with them, and I say things and tell them things like, well, do you have any phishing protection? Like, do you have training for your office people who, to make sure you're compliant in phishing? Because, they're like, well, what's phishing? I'm like, that's when somebody sends you an email and tries to get you to click a link to enter information and they're going to intercept it. They're like, oh, no, we just
click
our
all the
office,
emails.
right? There's nothing. And I'm like, so
You
you're
at least
not
have a
worried?
conversation about it occasionally.
You're
No,
not,
dude, these are small.
you're
Yeah.
not really worried about the 67-year-old receptionist you have at the front desk not knowing the difference between Citibank and Citibank with a Cyrillic A, And nope. Okay, well, I don't know if I want to keep my medical records with you, but
This was the theory, right? I said, big tech, chasing big tech, whatever, or not big tech, but larger corporations, but this SMB market for IT, there's usually, and you had said, there's usually one or two every city that kind of have that locked in, right? They're like the IT for everyone, like kind of thing. But the way they run their business, and a lot of them are from hardware selling, right? Or whatever, that there's like not a lot of this. And sometimes they do the security, but did you, the theory that I was telling you, I was working on myself was more when we talk about fractional, can we crack this and get them to give us almost a subscription for IT instead of only when I come on site? Did you get anywhere like that yet? Or
oh yeah,
okay.
I've been doing some market research there, at least locally, right?
What do you
Now,
think?
see,
Yeah.
the thing
Could they
about it
handle
is
a subscription for IT, like
when
fractional IT?
they're not sold on it, and here's why.
Yeah.
Because when the sort of combined hardware and support business started dwindling and like, the cloud became the thing, right? These existing one or two people locally, right? What ended up happening was they either stopped doing business and somebody from outside came in, right? Or matching the ones from outside that would come in, they transition from that model to the MSP model, right? With the idea of exactly how you would lay this out, right? So I had Chat GPT work with me doing all kinds of deep research, and and stuff like that on setting up this IT services model and what it should look like. And of course, what it all pulls is to set you up, right, like an MSP. Here's
The MSP is the
things you offer.
established model for IT providers.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
And the problem is small to medium-sized businesses just don't want to they don't trust putting a monthly amount in, right, to get remote work. They don't think, or to get remote support, with some on-site support, however you adjust it, they don't think they're going to use that many hours.
Yeah. They'd rather pay it all at once when their customers are screaming at them and their building's half on fire, right? That's like the whole, this is a thing, it's a really hard, you don't get paid by.
Try to get them to think about it in terms of what they already do. Who do they use to wash their windows? They have windows, right? They've got office buildings. They've got windows. Somebody cleans the inside and the outside of those windows regularly.
I think that's a great way to do it. That's one of the reasons why I'm going and doing I'm going to be doing more of the networking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think the issue is the real issue here is exactly the same thing that's right up my alley with what I've been doing for my entire career, which is there's no one here to tactfully and kindly educate these business owners, right? Every single IT person that they've experienced has difficulty translating the tech into something that they can understand, right? And so for me, that's kind of been my entire business model, my entire career. It's how I interact with senior business people in corporations, all that sort of stuff. It's like, I don't want to sit here and talk the tech and what we were just doing in this call, this whole deal over scripting and things like that. No business person wants to hear any of that, right? There was somebody I work with posted a picture of some sort of open source GitHub project, and it was of the issue screen, right? It was some sound thing, right? And the issue reported was, when I scream into my microphone, I got a seg fault, right? And of course, we're all laughing at it, but I replied with quotes, "This is by design. No one wants to hear that." Closing issue. That is exactly how non-IT people see us when we're talking the tech and getting all excited about the tech, right? Is they see us as screeching into a microphone.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I agree with David about for the financial agreement about sort of cleaning the windows, right? It's a ongoing process. You're never done. You don't just come in and build the desk.
You wait until you can't see out of the glass before.
Yeah, no, you don't do it.
Then okay, then we can work with that. That's going to be this model.
Exactly. But I think fractional CTO though is more like your lawyer. We are your technical lawyer. We really are. And then if we have to come in and type or do some work, that's when you're in court, right? Kind of thing. So I think the retainer model is good. Sorry, Thomas.
No, it's okay. No, people see the glass. They can see that it's dirty. They can't see the computer. It's intangible.
Right.
There's nothing that they see or understand about it other than, what's present on the screen. So that's
their business. Yeah. They don't see they definitely don't see their business in the computers. This is the largest challenge in the last, say, 5 years is they did a bunch of stuff, but they're having trouble seeing their business now that it's on computers. The thing about this is if we're doing risk mitigation, Michael, when you're there, you're effectively, it reminds me of they're out having beers, they do all this business, and the lawyer would be there. Now it's not your lawyer, it's your lawyer and your CTO. If you're doing it right, and you're there to be a human, tell the stories, but make sure they're not blowing their foot off or doing something crazy. And so that retainerness is also risk mitigation. If you can do like David and get that retainer, right? That's the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of the path I'm headed down is what I'm not sure is if the relationship here between these two things, right? What I would call, not necessarily Payne as a lower level, but a more entry level style service, the IT services, help with your Wi-Fi, make sure your computer's good, right? And transitioning that into the fractional CTO, more helping you and guide you through the risks of IT in your business, right? I'm not sure which one is the better pitch for these local people yet, right? For most people, I'm gonna say most people. We look at the statistics, right? Most people,
Well-
most businesses are small businesses. Right.
Let's look at it from a different lens here for a second. Which one do you want to do?
Oh, I'm much more qualified in the fractional CTO area, in the
So-
fractional area, period.
What value do you see to your business to come in and pitch doing desktop support and Wi-Fi?
I have number one, I have kind of in my life, a built-in ready set of contacts who are skilled in the technical areas, right? Who are struggling right now and could use that type of work and would build it with me, people I trust, right? So the core benefit of the business is additional, it's both additional, it's obviously the revenue side of it, but also the um the overall awareness of our existence.
So you would
That's
see it as a
probably more
marketing-
beneficial.
You would see it as a marketing benefit or a potential marketing benefit.
Yeah. I mean, and not too much different than the old retail loss leader concept.
Sure.
Yeah. I
Right.
see it as like lead gen too.
Yeah.
We leading with services is what I call that. Like, yeah, obviously we can do CTO, but no good emergency should go to waste when I'm like at the local cafe and someone's like, all our Wi-Fi's down. I'll like go there and try to help them. Because then it's that trust and all that. So but what I like doing is I like when they trust me. Right. Like, because
So-
then you can do whatever.
So if you were,
Not in
if
a
you
bad
were
way
to
to go.
tackle that desktop support, bring in some people that you know, that you trust already, that aren't currently working, right? Just to run the full cycle of this, though, how much work is that for you? What's the overhead? Is there profit in it? Is it break even?
For me,
Marketing expenses are expected to be expenses, so it's okay to say no. There's no profit in it, but talk through it. Do the number.
yeah, no, there's little profit. I'm gonna say the margins are gonna be much, much smaller, right? Um uh I think it's a little difficult for me to sort of quantify some of that, but um gut feeling, what it's doing is probably serve the same purpose. It's probably serving the same purpose as the other piece I'm talking about, which is me just investing my time in going to the local chamber events, the Rotary Club, things like that, right? In essence,
It's
it
lower
could,
risk to do that too, because you're not taking on the responsibility of someone else. Having
right,
to pay them, because
Right.
you're going to spend all that time instead of going to the Rotary, joining Rotary Club, going to Rotary events, going to chamber events. You're going to spend that time finding clients to do this work and managing this work.
right. Which is kind of why I've shifted since I last talked to Steven about it to being like, let me mess around with the idea of going and doing the Rotary, doing the other networking stuff before pushing this, right? Because it kind of comes back to what I was saying before is like, look, I do know there's an obvious need for this in town, whether the business people know it or not, right? So
Yeah. I mean,
simply
it's
by
like,
getting, go ahead.
you're asking people to pay a subscription for tech support, like for their car. They're just gonna be like, no, I'll take it in when it's broken.
Yeah, but
I'm done
there
with
are lots of people who buy a subscription for oil changes,
Yeah, that's true.
subscription for repairs. That we call that an extended warranty. But
Oh yeah,
do
no,
that
I have a
right.
subscription for a car wash.
Yeah,
Right.
That's
Like,
good. But they don't. It's like the glass. They don't see that it's dirty. They don't understand that the backup needs to run. They don't understand
Yeah,
that
they don't even know.
You have to find them
log
after you only find some of the
completely.
people after they've experienced
Yes,
the other side of it.
Yeah.
Right.
I used to go to, you know, everybody in the neighborhood and the school and the church and everywhere. Oh, we just got a computer. Oh, get this guy to come and hook it up for you. And, you know, I've tried to do this local business thing, and you can try to be as helpful as possible. And they're like, "Oh, you want $50 for that? Oh, no." Like, um, okay, you know, like it's it's an uphill battle with all that stuff because I just think they're never going to see it, you
That
know,
was
and
the IT cost center era, though. But if a company is a bakery that's doing their online orders, right, that only does it through that computer,
Revenue stream.
what do
yeah,
they
stuff
need?
has
What do they
shifted.
even need?
Yeah. But I think
Even
it's a little more
need
core to their
to do it.
business now, right? Like that's what shifted a little. But you're right. I mean, it used to be like,
Why would they even need you though? I don't even know why they need desktop support for anything.
Well,
You know, if
they've got computers all over the bakery. They have
they
to
can't even
interface.
make the
They have to
baking.
interface to that software as a service product somewhere, right?
Sometimes.
Bakery is
workstation. It's just workstations and deployments of the physical hardware again. I
And keeping
guess.
the
You know.
Wi-Fi working, keeping the network
Yeah,
connectivity
But
working.
now, man, if the
that's
cafe that I go to, if the Wi-Fi's down, it's empty. I'll be honest. Like,
Yeah.
and so like
Yeah.
IT's starting to, you know, do even well, actually, there's some people that probably go there if the Wi-Fi is down, but they're not as many as the people who use it. So
Well, they
a
just stop in
bakery
and
is no
grab their
longer a
coffee.
bakery. It's
a tech
a
company
bakery
with
is
a
a
bakery
coffee
problem.
house.
It's
You know,
or it's
bakery is a remote work location.
yeah. Well, MasterCard said we're a tech company with a credit card problem, right? This is the thing. But Thomas is right. I mean, I feel like another round out there, like you're doing, Michael. This is really interesting information, right? To see.
Yeah, and you know, I can't. I'm gonna kind of point this out too. The interesting thing about experiencing this today versus years ago when I did it when I still lived in New Jersey, um, is how much AI contributes to both success and failure. But how much, just to say how involved AI can be in a lot of this. It, I've used a lot of AI to help round out some of my knowledge and fact check. The deep research capability of OpenAI and others has been really kind of critical to building out um, my plans and how things are basically structured, right? Whereas before, it would have taken me days and weeks just to figure it all out. We got a new buddy of mine, who's looking to get into consulting and whatnot, and he's spent a week just kind of like figuring out how to do the business, how to literally register the business in Pennsylvania, how to what
How much
what all the
computer
structures are.
experience?
And I was like, dude, why not? Like, I got answers for you like in seconds, right? Ask me or literally ask Chat GPT. Like, it's so worth it.
Is this
Um,
somebody that has a IT experience, or is this somebody
uh-huh.
different background? What's their background?
Solutions architect for like more than a decade.
Oh, so they're already in IT.
Oh yeah, with a huge aversion to AI.
Yep.
To a lot of people higher up.
There
have
is
a
so much FUD around it and this lack of understanding that all it is another access path to knowledge. You could crack a book, you could go sit around a campfire, you can, go hunting and listen to your fellow hunters talk about how and why you do this and why you cut this part out before you eat it, right? I mean, wherever we do it, wherever we gain and learn and listen to the wrong things, right? You go and sit down at a Rotary Club meeting and you're going to hear people talking about things they shouldn't be doing and you know better, right? talking to an LLM, talking to this artificial interface to knowledge is no different. It's just there and accessible and faster. And I didn't have to go to a Rotary Club meeting and hope that this one person, hope that Michael showed up so I could ask him about, hey, what's a phishing scam?
But everyone has it too. So if the Rotary Club is asking IT questions to the AI, do we still need you, Michael? Right? This is the thing people keep asking me. I think so, but
Yeah.
right? Because now it's, well, is the AI right or wrong? Is it
Right.
fit to, like, just the validation is still.
Should I ask someone with experience to back that up? Now I can know what questions to ask Michael, because I've seen 5 or 6 answers from different other tools that I was able to get quickly, get a deep research and read on and feed that back into an LLM and get a simplified TLDR of that. And then I can go, so Michael, phishing scams. Now we can have a conversation about it.
Does it come from a Gmail address?
I mean, that I've had a lot of people, you have that initial conversation. They were, I ask them about, about how much of that did you understand? They're like 2%. But I had the chat window open. I'm going to read some of this stuff and we'll get back to you. And then they have more questions. So, but again, like I agree with David. It's like and also in the end, Michael, if you're the one there, local, this is important. I think that Chat GPT can't be there at that thing drinking a beer, as far as I know so
Right.
far. And so that, ultimately is still for humans. And so they can close that gap on knowledge quick, all that stuff, but you'll be there. And I still think this is sort of where we start to be more like, you can get law advice all day from that Chat GPT, but you're their lawyer or you're their fractional CTO. This starts to emerge as a thing.
Right.
How financially, we're still, I guess all of us are still, David has opinions probably more. But how to transact the money to make that, and what's the value here? It's sort of like, I think it's an opportunity right now. You could probably do pretty well.
I mean, I know people who are currently building businesses, and this only lasts for a little while, but they're riding the edge, they're riding the wave, where they're building businesses just teaching people to sit down and use these things. Sitting down and using Cursor. Teaching developers to use an IDE. What? That's like,
Yeah.
wait, what? But because people are afraid or don't have time or whatever. So similarly, teaching people, non-computer people or even computer people, the value of spending their 10 hours with an LLM, right? That alone can be valuable. That's a service you could provide and offer,
Prompt engineering?
help them
Prompt
understand in a
running.
safe space
Mhm.
how it works for them, why it works for them.
Well, I
That
mean,
was-
most people don't really know what AI actually is.
No, this is
They
the
know it's
number one thing.
buzzword, AI.
No one does.
Right? And when you break it down for someone and go, yeah, the technical term, is large language model. And what that means is it's really good at finding the connections between words. Okay. So when I sit here and try to explain something technical, right, and I get all Tommy boy on you and can explain it in this simple way that you can understand with some hokey Texasism involved, right? The AI, your large language model, can kind of do the same thing, right? You can ask it to go and do deep research on a particular topic and it will do it all, right? And then you can take it, whatever it returns, and go, now explain to me like I'm 5. And it will literally put it in terms that a 5-year-old is supposed to understand as best as it can,
Yep.
right? As best as inhumanly possible. And once people get past that point of there again, a lot of there's 2 barriers. One is ignorance, right? Nacogdoches, Texas, people don't think about it, right? They go, I need an IT guy, or I need to know about this. Who do I know, right? Okay, mother's cousin's roommate do I know who can help me with this, right? And that's their first thing. They don't even think to do that. Ignorance of the issue. The second thing is fear. Fear of something they don't know, right? Once they get past those 2 things, right? You start seeing anybody anywhere. I've seen it with people here. They're off to the races. And no, I'll tell you, I got a buddy of mine who's not so IT inclined, but he's a real go-getter. And, he's been using Chat GPT, whatever. He still comes to me to validate a lot of that stuff that he gets out of there. Because there's no way around the hard work. There isn't.
It's not.
Right.
It'll tell you the answer, but if some of this is practice-based stuff, right? And so, again, watching a video of someone do jujitsu, you go try it. It doesn't work that way. Right? You're not good at it, or cooking or whatever. But connecting those, I mean, in the mentoring I'm doing, we switch from let's deploy a VM and have a web server. They really wanted to know about AI, right? They just say that, but like at the end, being able to see how to deploy, like use Olama, just install it. It's still all the same techniques, and then run a model is enlightening for people. It starts to really help. And then, there's some things like I think we just added to the other part of the sort of toolkit where, like you said, if you're trying to explain to folks how it works, getting rid of the coherence gaps and things like that. What is it? What can I use? How does it help my business? Again, that's really nothing replaces the human being standing there that they trust. Mothers, friends, boyfriends, sisters, husband is the one that made my website. It's also that same chain that will be the IT person in these networks and things. So trust is actually the biggest thing. And then they trust you once you start showing them to it. Yeah.
I'm getting a new sensor, and I don't know how to write the code, and I trust that my LLMs will help me get at least some compilable code that I can test the thing out. I can develop it from there.
But you still have to practice, right? Like if you were gonna do some.
Well, I've got the code that uses the other sensor. I just want to. This new sensor has new architecture that goes with it, and in and out protocols, and so I got to come up with a test program to try it out, and then I'll integrate it into the existing.
One of the things that we miss when people talk about LLMs and AI and how it's going to replace people is, I'm going to put some words in your mouth here, Noel, so apologies.
Go ahead.
But you would have never hired somebody to help you solve that. You would just sit there and bang
I
it.
would bang it out for days and days and
Right?
days.
So it doesn't replace. Only thing it replaces is your own time. When we talked about the guy who spent a week trying to figure out how to set up his local business, and he could have gone to ChatGPT and it would have given him directions and places to explore, and within 2 hours he would have all the information he would have done, probably have filed his paperwork online already.
It's like climbing a stair, and you're able to get to the top stair quicker.
This person was never going to hire someone to show them how to start a business. Now, there are products and companies and software and service companies who are built around helping people start a business.
Mm-hmm.
But they are helping the people who are not going to ask ChatGPT, aren't going to come to an open coffee, aren't going to pick up a Nolo book or go to the Nolo website, right? They're aimed at the people who want somebody to just do it for them. So there's always still going to be opportunity. What that opportunity is for you individually may change, but it's still going to be there.
Right. I mean, I've got a project. This one other guy I was telling you guys about, who I'll start going back to next month when he gets freed up. His system is in the title insurance industry. He collects and the data from certain counties here in Texas, right? And I don't know if y'all know these, but like title insurance in Texas is a little bit weird. It's also one of the things one of the only things in Texas that's highly regulated. And so he's sitting there talking to me and telling me all about it, right? And my brain can't process as fast as he's telling me, right? So we were coming back to it, and I was like, you know what? I understand the basic concepts of what he needs, right? He needs not to completely remove the human in the loop when it comes to processing the updates from the county on all of these property documents that come in every single day, right? But he needs to speed it up because the more it's almost an exponential increase in work as he tries to add counties and county data, right? So what I did was I actually used 2 of my deep research prompts per month to have actually use a regular prompt to help me build out a list of deep research topics for the Texas title insurance business, and took the first 2 and built them out. Number 1, the overview and all the details of what the Texas title insurance industry is and how it works. And a second one at deep research is the flow for both residential and commercial properties, including some references to pieces of software that already do this and help out with it. Right. It's got me lined up. I can go put another one in to actually deep research all those different software companies, find the gaps, go through the reviews and see what they're missing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, build a competitor. But it produced for me in those 2 documents, roughly 50, 60 pages worth of material, right? That I was then able to read through and consume at my own pace. And the whole industry makes a whole lot more sense to me.
Right.
So, no, like you were saying, gets you to the top stair a whole lot faster.
And with at least Gemini's deep research, I did some on opacity measurement over the years. And the best thing is all the references at the bottom, 130 references. It's like, wow, you can go take your time and go through that. We originally, when I'm in a grant with the Department of Energy with University of Berkeley, we thought there was a lot of work done in opacity measurement. We can't find it. We can find some in 1969. We can find some in the 80s that wasn't all that thorough. So I use Google Deep Research, Google's Gemini Deep Research, and I've been really pleased with. But you got to get your prompts right. And I've been on Reddit. Prompt engineering is a thing.
Yeah.
I think Anthropic recently published a thing to say that they're starting to recognize it's less about prompt engineering and more about context engineering. The prompt I think this is an important distinction. The prompt engineering is for the programmers that are building tooling, automation, using the APIs, or the people that are actually building the tools that we use, these chat interfaces. The system prompts are lots of engineering goes into system prompts because they're anything that is repeated and consistent and are used over and over and over again. What we're doing is context engineering. We put our first message in, it's just the first piece of our context. It doesn't always have to be that one. That doesn't have to be everything. That might be an instruction, it might be data, it might be whatever. But so what we are working on is the entire chat context. And how we evolve that is just as important as how you prompted originally with your first piece of context.
But the challenge I have is getting, even if I give it the program, keeping the variables the same. You know, if it changes even one variable, I'm like, I'll start again.
Yeah. I've also learned the importance of I probably have now close to, at least in ChatGPT, I have probably more projects, groups of chats than I have actual chats. Because that's where like the project is where you set that initial instruction, the override of the default system prompt, right? And context files to go along with it, right? Where you can then have multiple chats around that same thing. And the reason I started going that route is because, man, I would have chats that would go way too long in ChatGPT. And because OpenAI is attempting to include as much of that previous context window as possible in the conversation, it bogs down the entire interface.
Well, and if you really want to see it bogged down, you do that with GPTs, because I before projects, and before projects finally got a little bit better, they were bad when they first came out. Doing that with GPTs, where you load up your instruction, load up some data, right? Those would get very slow to like multi-minute response times just after a few hundred, pieces of conversation. And because I use them for RPGs, I use them for a lot of different things, and for DMing tabletop games, and you would run into that, and it's like, well, that was miserable. I have to break out of that, and projects will still do it, but at least you have. One of the nice thing about projects, though, is that you can change that prompt without having to recreate all the conversations.
Right.
Whereas the GPT, when you change that prompt, you're stuck. The knowledge or the prompt, you're stuck. You have to start a new conversation. You can't continue from there. So that's a very useful function to be able to do that. Plus, the grouping of it's good. But yeah, I have found that if you put things that look like a user's chat session in the project context files, like say you dump a chat session that says, user agent, user agent, user agent, and put that as a chat context, it will always assume that was the conversation. And it will completely ignore the first message you send it. And I'm like, so then you spend 3 or 4 messages like trying to, no, look, that's not, oh my God, this is what's going on. I have to go and like strip out all the user agent stuff so it can have the data that's in there without it thinking it's chat conversation.
Right.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting experience, but probably ought to wrap it up and call it a day.
That sounds good.
It's been good. Noel, thanks for joining.
I just enjoy the conversation and reason to take a shower and put on my top coat.
And Michael, thanks for coming, and it's been good, and good luck joining Rotary.
Thank you very much. It's a big step for me as an antisocial guy. So see y'all later.
I hear you. I can't imagine doing it. So, bye.